Welcome to the Weather Guru's tropical update for the Atlantic and Pacific basins for the end of the month here, August 30th, 2022. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to subscribe to this Weather Guru channel for the latest podcasts and articles related to the tropics and weather in general for the lower 48 contiguous United States and sometimes abroad as well. World weather news. We're going to currently start off here looking at the Atlantic basin here, and we have two areas of interest, guys. These, ladies and gentlemen, these areas are well to the east of the Windward Islands, some 600, 700 miles to the east of the Windward Islands, moving west-northwest. The first area of interest is given by the National Hurricane Center a 80% chance of development through 5 days and a 50% chance of development through the next 2 days. The next name on the list is Danielle, and many are expecting this system to become Danielle. And we're going to talk about some of the things it has in its favor, some of the things that it does not have in its favor, as well as some other predicting factors, environmental factors that continue as it moves west-northwest at between 5 and 10 more miles an hour. The good news with this system is, let's look at some of the steering currents. We have the big Bermuda Azores high above it that's going to continue to move this system west-northwest. We also have an extending cold front that's going to be coming off the east coast of the United States sometime tonight or tomorrow. This is going to have a big influence on the steering currents. As you know, the Labor Day holiday coming up in America next Sunday or next week, September the 5th, around that area Monday, is a time where we typically have an uptick in tropical development. And the peak of the hurricane season is from September 10th to October 10th, so this is no surprise. Now, what it has in its going for it has warm sea surface temperatures above it. Temperatures are running 86 to 87 degrees Fahrenheit in front of it, hundreds of miles in front of it. Wind shear is currently not that impressive. There's a lot of, maybe about 10 knots or 15 knots of wind shear coming into the system from the northeast. This is going to be forecast the weekend, and that's why the National Hurricane Center has upped its chances to 80% through 5 days as it makes its way north of the Windward and Leeward Islands, or northeast of the Windward and Leeward Islands. Okay, so but what it has working against it is there's a pool of dry air in front of it, both directly in front of it. Dry air is not conducive, as you know, for hurricane strengthening or development. Thunderstorms can't band around the center, and it has this elongated area of low pressure. There isn't really a defined center core of which the thunderstorms and the convective activity and showers is wrapping around it. And that is one of the big problems. The system is phased into two big groups of thunderstorms with no convective center core, closed core, low circulation. And that's what you would need to have any type of tropical depression or tropical system storm form before a hurricane, obviously. We don't have that. So maybe tomorrow the conditions will be favorable for it going into Wednesday or Thursday. But right now we don't have that. So the wind shear is supposed to be forecast to come down. The dry air will come down if the Bermuda high shifts to the east a little bit more to allow more room for the system to come up into the northwest in a couple of days out. So as you know, the system reliability of these forecast models are not as reliable more than 3 or 4 days out, as you know. So I don't put too much stock in an 8-day range model run of a GFS or Euro or whatever. As you know, I'm not going to lead you guys like that. But I will say this: it's still a high chance that this could become a tropical depression, a storm named Danielle. Now, whether or not it affects the U.S. coast, I don't think so either. Right now, this looks like a system that's going to curve around Bermuda. On the islands, they're going to be affected. There may be a tropical storm warning or watch issued for Bermuda, but as far as the lower 48 United States, the Gulf Coast, or either the Atlantic or North Carolina or any of those outer banks, I don't think so. There'll be some swells from the system, and we'll see if it gets to hurricane status. It's possible, if everything lines up, that this could get the Category 1 hurricane status if like I said, the wind shear relaxes, and if the system becomes better organized. We need banding in all four quadrants. We need a closed core low, everything that you typically would see of a strong storm. If all that happens and it gets into the Gulf Stream north of Bahamas before curving around to Bermuda, things could become very, very interesting come Saturday and Sunday of this weekend for Bermuda, and that's it. Nobody else is going to be affected by this in terms of landmass right now, as we see the steering currents and everything as of that nature. So if the Bermuda high weakens and moves to the west more, if it strengthens and moves to the west more, then that obviously means a greater chance for U.S. landfall somewhere between Savannah, Charleston, and Outer Banks in North Carolina. If the Bermuda high moves to the east more and it strengthens, and that means it's going to have that curving effect for this system, whatever it becomes, and it's going to curve around Bermuda Not a direct hit, obviously, for nobody, but tropical storm conditions will be possible in Bermuda, and it's going to go out to sea. I would take the latter route at this point in time. But we never know, because Labor Day has been historically a time where we have a system out there, and it does out. Now, the system behind it doesn't look very organized at all. It's coming off the west coast of Senegal and Dakar right now. It's just a bunch of thunderstorms right now. Nothing a broad area of thunderstorms. A big swirling low here, as you can see on the satellite. Nothing really substantial here. So, but this system is only given a 20% chance, I believe, by the National Hurricane Center, and a 40% chance through 4 days. So it could, but it depends on where it goes from there. Now, in the Eastern Pacific, things are heating up as well. There's a medium 60% chance of another tropical wave coming off. The Eastern Pacific has been very busy this year, as you know, and that system will be the next named system we'll fan probably by Friday. Nothing in the Central Pacific. Hawaii, you're absolutely looking great right now. There is a super typhoon and hitting close to uh, the islands, the international date line here. Super Typhoon Himwar has winds well over 155 miles an hour, very well symmetrical. It's defined in all four quadrants, a very strong eye wall there. And as you can see, the intensity of the satellite image here, very symmetrical storm here. So prayers are with those in the Pacific Islands here, the northern Aleutian Islands, as tropical, and in Japan and those areas in the Philippines, as Super Typhoon Himawari comes roaring through here. It's a category 5 on the South Central scale. It's a super typhoon, and it's heading towards the central islands of the Pacific islands out there. So the central islands of the Pacific, anybody in lower Japan, those areas out there. So you're going to be seeing this system as it continues to make its way. So we have to be very, very concerned about that with this Himwari here. We're going to get a better view of it here in just 1 second, according to aircraft reconnaissance. There it is. It's going to be making its way in some of the islands. Very symmetrical, very dangerous storm here in the Western Pacific. And so that's all we have right now for these systems. Let me give you the pressure update. 926 millibars, maximum winds 130 knots on the system, 160 miles an hour for Super Typhoon Himawari. And it will be moving. Let me give you the track here. It will be moving closer and closer. It will be losing some intensity, coming down to category 4 intensity on the San Francisco scale as it approaches the lower islands of Japan. We're talking Okinawa, and it's going to pivot between the two islands there of Kyushu Islands and come up northward toward the South China Sea, possibly affecting the Shanghai region. But this is laid out. This is laid out maybe about 5 days out. So Friday, or even coming, it'll stay to the west of Taiwan. So you'll be on the western side, the weaker side of the system, quote unquote. But there will be some impacts in northeast Taiwan. There will be some impacts in Kadena, Japan, Oshima, Ikazawa, and also the Okinawan Islands there as it crosses in about the next 72 hours here. Winds will come down to 135 knots as it makes its transition through the South China Sea. And around the next 5 days, when it emerges from the Okinawa Islands northward towards Shanghai, winds will be around 100 knots at that time, sometime on Saturday. So just a couple of days out, but I know that this system is moving fast and it is gaining ground. Spaghetti plots have it all moving toward the north, making that westward track, then southwest, which is very interesting, and then it heads northeast through the South China Sea in between Shanghai, Jeju Island, South Korea, and on back northeast in between Japan and South Korea in the yellow South China Sea there. And then winds will continue to be weakening as it gets in those cooler waters north of Japan and Sapporo Island. It'll be weakening down to a minimum tropical storm by that time. So no direct landfall, but there will be some heavy winds and rains in those places south of Tokyo, Yokohama, south of Seoul and Busan, South Korea. There will be some gusty winds, tropical storm winds, and heavy surf in these areas as anticipated. So this has been your tropical update for August 30th, 2022. Please be sure to subscribe. Thank you for joining me today on the Weather Gurus podcast. Talk to you very soon.